It's very difficult for me. Ever since I was a little child, it's because of the way that I use my energy. When I was obviously a small child, and I acknowledged I was on a spiritual battlefield and I have a mission to do. Okay, and I realized that I don't use my energy the same way that they do, and that means that I have to maintain my state of perfect balance 100% of the time, which is a mono era, okay, which is a unity wave, right? Transharmonic. I'm always experiencing being in perfect balance with one, the Christic spiral. Okay? But I listened to a part, and I haven't finished it yet, with a video that my clan mother, Karen Ann Luke McDonald, 13th Arcturian White Bear. Okay, so they're hitting White Bear area, right? That's Arcturian. Okay, so because I jumped into firefighting, chasing the spirit of fire right out of high school. Actually, that was long before that. Actually, I was doing rescue work and evacuating homes and fighting fire on hillsides when I was like 14, 15 years of age as a volunteer. But what I'm trying to say is that I shared one time a story when I was an engineer, which means I'm the driver and the pump operator of an engine, a company, fire engine. And there was a gentleman who was assigned to that engine that day because I wasn't crew boss rated. So you know how rule-based function works with order followers, which are AI units, right? AI integrated, which means they live in fear of disobedience of the order, just like what you see with the law enforcement guy over there on Maui, okay, that was preventing people from getting through. That's a crime. That law enforcement officer is actually complicit in murder. That's the truth of it. Okay, so here's an example. When we got called out on a fire that day, and I got a guy sitting next to me that's never done structural fire protection before on a wildland fire, but he's had a lot of experience cutting fire line on a hotshot crew in forest fires. Okay, and I had done both. I've been on both sides of that equation, right? Which is water suppression and line cutting suppression, working with helicopters and air tankers and all that, right? Okay. So in this particular case, he was assigned to the engine because I wasn't crew boss rated. I was engineer and a fire engine apparatus engineer rated, but not crew boss rated. So therefore, I wasn't qualified to run a crew. Okay, you have to have specific classes to do that. So this guy had a crew boss rating, but even though he'd never been on engines, okay, directing a fire crew to protect structures. So as it turned out, when we got up to a home that was being threatened by fire, and he gave an order that I knew that if they followed that order, the family coming home was going to suffer an enormous amount of trauma because that decision was going to cause the loss of that home. So I countermanded his order because I could already see the future that he wasn't able to see what was going to happen. And you know why that is when it comes to light quotient potentials, right? Seeing future proofs past, back to the future, the scene that you're going to see if you don't intervene on behalf of those that are going to experience that trauma. So I turned around and I told the other young firefighters that were in the back, grab the 2.5 inch, put a supply line up to the standpipe over there, and we're going to hit it in a pincer movement. They moved just like that, okay? Because they remembered their training, because that's why they're there. It's to protect lives and property, okay? That's the primary function of his job, is putting life first. Okay? That officer on Maui was not putting life first. He was derelict in his duty and he should be arrested by the United States military. Okay? And held for war crimes. Now you could include that when you think about when I remember Patty Broussard mentioned about all the firefighters and law enforcement were all working for the cabal. So now that Karen was doing this video, right, and you've got all these fires going on, and you can see they're doing the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. Did you expect a different result? No. Okay, so since the taxpayers who've essentially bought all this equipment, all this firefighting equipment, right, are there any firefighters or captains, retired fire guys, okay, that the community can mobilize, right? Because that equipment, the fire equipment and all that stuff actually belongs to you, right? And so you can sort of sort out to find out who's who on the spiritual battlefield. and either take into custody or just say, listen, since you're of no help and the things that you're doing are becoming what? A thorn on our butt, which means you're getting in the way of what needs to be done, then go sit on the sideline because you don't belong in this, right? Particularly when it comes to protecting lives and property and the habitat. Because everything that is in nature, that's a living cellular membrane, that's their home. So they have just as much to be there as we are. Because we're all connected, right? So I've been doing what I can here on this rock because, as you know, this is the high-speed router right here on the big island of Hawaii, right? Pushing rainbows outside and doing work with the sun to send as much love as I can through the entire Polynesian, actually across the entire planetary cellular terrain. And so I focus my energy on where you guys up are in Canada because of how an AI strategizes all of its moves through all of its what I call droning assets, order followers. That's what they are. Because they live in fear of not obeying an order. Why? Money. If I don't follow this order, I'm going to lose my job. And they live in fear of losing their job, so they put their job first and life last. I was dealing with those as soon as I came into firefighting and emergency protection and medical services from the time I was 17 in 1970. So I know who these folks are. Remember the incident I told you about at Rockwell International? When I was going after them for dumping thousands of gallons of water down into the groundwater system that's supplying drinking water for 12 million people? Don't you realize how much money you're making here at this place? And you want to turn the company that you're working for the crimes that they're committing? Yes, absolutely. Okay? And that came out of the Nuremberg Doctrine. And that also is titled in Title 26, Uniform Code of Military Justice, which means we have a responsibility and accountability for our own behavior for what we use our energy for. So what these are is war crimes against all life. Because how are you going to hold accountable something that doesn't have a soul? That's your AI. Right? You're not going to be able to take artificial intelligence into a courtroom and prosecute it. Right? This is what happens with AI integration in a beast system. That's the battlefield. It's an AI battlefield environment. That's why we're here. That's why the Guardians are here. That's why we did all the arcing hubgate work and ignited the Emerald Covenant. Right? Yeah. The blue lotus flower breath of Kameloati. Have a great day. We love you all. Be good to yourselves.